The following podcast may contain adult language and an abundance of salt, so get ready, nerds, because we're talking The Atom Project. Welcome, everybody, and thank you guys for joining us on this episode of the Salty Nerd Podcast. We are going to be reviewing The Atom Project, written by Jonathan Tropper, who's a friend of the podcast, so we wanted to give this a proper nerdy look and talk about this movie because we've been excited about it for a long time, and we're happy to support Jonathan in his writing efforts. He's done wonders with C, and I was really looking forward to checking this movie out. So I'm joined as always by my fantastic panel of nerds. Matt Vader is here. Welcome, sir. How you doing, bud?
I need some Kleenex.
Did you cry?
Dude, I came so close
All right.
to crying during this movie. I'm so mad at Jonathan Tropper right now. That son of a
weak bitch.
It's ridiculous. I'm like, yeah, it was awful.
Okay. Jude is also here.
The feels coming out.
I know,
of this guy.
right? This is big, bearded, angry guy. He's like, this movie made me cry, guys.
Yeah,
It's adorable.
real close.
Good for you, man.
His heart can't take it.
I know. Jude, welcome.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Excellent. Matthew Cadish is also here. Welcome, sir.
I'm not gonna lie, I got teary-eyed a few times, very verklimped we're all watching this movie.
Verklempt.
I'll give you a topic.
Yeah, I'm sitting there like this movie and Good Will Hunting, I think, are like two dude cried movies where we're just like the father figure. Yeah, it was emotional.
Actually, like we'll get into it, but it was actually the mother-son relationship that got me the most.
That was good too.
No,
Like both the father-son and the mother-son relationships were things that I got teary-eyed over.
Are you guys ready for this bombshell?
What?
This movie did putting a kid in a movie perfectly.
Yes.
Aww.
I thought it was good.
I was like
30 seconds into the movie, Kadish turns to me and he's like, he's nailing Ryan Reynolds. Right?
He really did.
His Ryan Reynolds impression was spot on.
have you guys seen the interviews with this kid? He
No.
he can quote like the entire movie of Deadpool like verbatim.
Oh my God.
That's not
Bless
a
his
good thing.
heart.
I know that's not a
He's
good
too
thing.
young to be watching.
I know.
Well,
His big hero moment was a spoof of Deadpool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, the hero landing. All right, guys. So if you haven't watched this movie, big spoiler alert, we're going to be doing a deep dive, talk about every little bit of it, and we're going to have a ton of fun. So if you haven't seen it, be warned right now, go check it out. It's on Netflix. It's available if you have that platform, and then you can come back and watch this video. But before we get into it, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. We're going to drink some, well, never
Water.
mind. Water. Some cola. We're going to drink something and then come right back. So stay tuned. Welcome back, everybody. Hey, if you want to get some awesome merch and support the podcast, go to saltynerdstore.com. There you can get access to our limited edition Global Dynamics t-shirt that is in reference to our classic sci-fi show of the month of March, Eureka. It says Global Dynamics, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. It's a limited time t-shirt. It's only going to be available for about 2 months, and then it's going to go away forever as we move on to the other classic sci-fi shows that we're watching. So get access.
One of our patrons actually took a picture of his dog wearing the shirt.
It was adorable.
It's a tripod.
Yeah, the tripod dog. It's like Champion from Parks and Rec. They got the dog wearing the Global Dynamics t-shirt. It's perfect. I put it on Instagram, so follow us on Instagram. You can see that photo. I put it up on our stories. Yeah, but check out the show. Check out the t-shirt that we're putting out for this month.
Our Buffy shirt's still available too.
Oh, did we extend that?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. All right. So if you guys are Buffy fans and you're a little late to the party, head over there. You can still get the Bite Me Buffy t-shirt. Jude, did he buy you one yet?
I doubt it.
I'm in the process of buying her one.
It's in his cart.
She'll never forgive me if I let that shirt.
I was going to say, I'm like, bro, of all the times, like now would be the one. All right. So let's get into Atom Project. Heavy spoilers, like we said. Go ahead, Jude. What is the synopsis for The Atom Project?
You got it. 2022, The Atom Project, rated PG-13 with a runtime of 1 hour, 46 minutes. This had a budget of, do you want to guess?
I have no idea. It's a Netflix movie.
200 million.
Whoa.
$175 million.
Damn.
Yeah, they spent some change on this.
Movies cost a lot of money these days.
Does this have a theatrical release as well?
No.
Or is it just Netflix?
This
Just
is a Netflix
It's
exclusive.
absolutely a travesty that this thing
Yeah,
is not.
this needs to be.
Yeah.
I think this would have been
It would
awesome.
have
This
done
would have
great.
blown up. This was awesome. But you know what? I'm really glad that I went into this not knowing anything about it because I kept confusing this with the other Ryan Reynolds movie that's out right now. Is it Free Guy?
Oh, Free Guy.
Yeah,
Red
I
Notice?
kept thinking that no, not Red Notice, Free Guy. I kept thinking that's what we were about to watch. And then when this started, I was like, who the hell's this kid? And I was so into it.
Well, it's funny because the director from Free Guy and Ryan Reynolds, who was in Free Guy, jumped right from that movie to this movie. So.
And so Free Guy came out a while ago though, but it's now available on streaming. Is that there's like a little cross promotion thing going on?
Yeah, so like it basically came out on streaming like a couple weeks before this movie, and I think a lot of people are getting confused about it.
Yeah, I was. All right, but let me tell you what it's about.
Go ahead.
So the year is 2050 until it's 2022 when Ryan Reynolds pops into his hometown, shot, jacked, and in a stolen jet. He meant to travel back to 2018 where his wife went missing, but time travel coordinates can be a real bitch to get right when you're on the run from a murderous Catherine Keener. He spent the last 30 years running from the scrawny kid he used to be, only to team up with his mouthy, asthmatic 12-year-old self to heal, fix his ship, and unravel the mystery of his missing wife, Zoe Saldana. The bad guys from 2050 follow him to 2022, and there's a lot of them. Deadpool's got a bag full of futuristic weapons, and as luck would have it, his wife, who's been stranded and waiting for him since 2018. The rules are, don't fuck with the timeline. When Gamora found evidence that someone did just that, Catherine Keener had to shut her up and planted a bomb on her ship, destroying it. Adam's dad, Bruce Banner, who died a year ago, created the equation that makes wormhole time travel possible in 2050. Since the timeline has already been altered, young and old Adam decide to go back to the beginning, to 2018, to keep time travel from ever happening, in order to save the world from the power-hungry Catherine Keener. They have to find their dad, break into the Saurian lab, and destroy the hard drive before the legion of 2050 soldiers find them. Using lightsabers and science, the Reed boys team up to protect time itself.
Nice.
So much fun.
Tons of fun.
This was a fun-ass movie.
I want to talk about the time travel aspect because that's always the biggest thing with these movies, right?
Oh, I've got so much
the time travel thing. The whole time I'm watching this movie, I'm trying to like map out in my head, like what is the ground rules for this whole setup?
That there are no.
So I'm like,
Fast and loose is what it is.
I'm like,
they pulled a Rian Johnson. Don't think about it.
No, he explained it. He says
does.
once they set it up.
He didn't explain it.
Yes, they did. He thinks once they fix it, it'll reset and things will go back to where
it just
supposed
might
to be.
You
take
got
a little while.
You got a
So-
fixed timeline.
What I kind of boiled it down to, and this is a loose translation, is like just watch the scene from Back to the Future 2 where Doc is explaining to Marty why the 1985 they're in would suck. And even if they go in the future, it's going to be even worse because it's still the same timeline. That's kind of what's happening in this movie.
That's not at all what's
That
happening.
is.
I ain't got
listen,
that.
The Biff Tannen of this universe went back and fucked with time, and it's a new timeline where now they're super rich and in charge of everything.
So,
All right,
so one of the problems. Wait. I gotta lay this out. Okay. So first of all, whenever you're dealing with a time travel story, you have to be super clear on the rules.
Mm-hmm.
And there are points in this movie where the kid is asking legitimate questions that the audience has about time travel. And they're kind of dismissed. Like at a certain point, the kid's like, is this a multiverse situation or is this like a fixed timeline situation? And that's kind of like a very meta thing for like a character in a time travel movie to be asking. And Ryan Reynolds is kind of like, what are you talking about? So
It's
like,
man,
at a certain point, they were like, do you ever watch Terminator? And the kid's like, yeah, of course. And he's like, okay, so it's sort of like that. And Terminator is a fixed timeline, but they never actually explicitly say how the time travel in the movie works. And that creates so many problems. You know, I love Jonathan Tropper, but like I would have expected him to have been very clear about what the time travel rules are in this movie, because I can name at least like 3 different sections of this film where I'm questioning, like, why does this movie even exist?
Hold on, because I want to get into that, because I felt like they went out of their way to kind of explain what was going on.
Listen, I didn't have any problems with suspension of my disbelief of the make-believe time travel rules that we all try to live hard and fast by. Because, you know, it's a fucking movie, okay? And the time travel stuff did not bother me at all one little bit. I'm going to give you guys about 10 minutes to be nerds, and then we can talk about the movie and move on with our time travel
all right.
theories.
Yeah, a few
we're
minutes.
We're not Einstein here.
No, a few minutes to
you're
break it
not.
down. Kadish, you're not either, but
I've got some things to say about this, though.
Okay,
so go ahead, Bo.
Well, I'm trying to think, because I was doing the same thing. I was watching this with my wife. It was like a date night movie, and we were getting together, and we were like, oh, we can't wait to watch this movie. And the whole time I'm watching it, she's looking at me. She's giving me like side eye, and I'm like, what do you want? She's like, I can see you analyzing things. And I'm like, I'm just trying to make sure that like everything is kind of mapped out. And I'm like, I'm thinking that this is kind of like Back to the Future 2 rules. Like the bad guy, the Biff Tannen of this universe is that chick, the scientist lady who's uber wealthy and like owns everything. Well, that's what Biff Tannen did. He sent himself the stock options, the almanac, right? Here's how you get rich, kid. She went back in time and did that to herself. Now she's super rich in the new timeline that she's made because she messed up the original one. She's the one in charge. And Adam and his alter ego, younger Adam, are now trying to go back before she did that to stop her from originally doing it. It's kind of the same thing from Back to the Future 2. They're just trying to stop Biff Tannen from becoming super rich and becoming the freaking Biff Tannen that we knew in the alternate 1985.
So you're saying Adam is Marty McFly?
Yes. In a way.
and the spaceship is the DeLorean.
Yep.
Exactly, yeah. That's kind of what I took away from that. So do you find issue with that, Kadish?
Oh, I find issue with the time travel rules.
Okay, so spell it out real simple for me.
So as a science fiction author, one of the challenges of writing believable time travel stories is figuring out, okay, what are the rules of time travel? Because you can create so many plot holes if you're not careful. And this movie didn't do anything to address those. Like I would have expected them to come out and say like, hey, this is a fixed timeline situation, which means that everything that happens already happened, right? So like you either can't change anything or anything you do change affects the timeline. Now, if they had gone with the multiverse route where there's like an alternate timeline where they use your Back to the Future analogy where they basically say like, okay, at a certain point, time skewed off from what it was supposed to be, and we're now in an alternate timeline that we need to go back and fix. That would have been one thing. But in the opening shot of this movie, there's like a little title card comes up that says time travel exists, right? And it's Ryan Reynolds stealing his time machine to go back in time. And there's like a little like in the atmosphere, like dogfight type thing. And so like, I'm sitting here watching this and I'm like, okay, if time travel exists, why is Catherine Keener trying to follow Ryan Reynolds back to 2022, especially when he like kind of masked his, like where he was going to jump to? Why not just go back to the previous day and stop him from stealing the thing to begin with? Because wouldn't that have erased like him going back in time at the start of the movie? Like you don't need to follow him back to 2022.
Because then we wouldn't have had a movie to watch.
Exactly. Exactly. This is why time travel rules are so important, because like I'm sitting here watching this movie saying like, why didn't she just go back to the previous day and stop him? And so like you need to establish like why the characters can't do that, why they have to follow him back to 2022. So there are very specific issues, and I had the same issues with Endgame too, because they played so fast and loose with their time travel rules. So I would have liked to have seen some like very hard established rules for time travel. And another thing is like if Ryan Reynolds really wanted to, you know, fix things, like he didn't need to go and destroy like the machine. He could have gone back in time to the point where like his dad hadn't done any of this and just told him like, hey, don't do this equation because it's going to lead to all this stuff. So yeah, like I feel like,
well, he wasn't trying to get to his dad. I think he was trying to get to his wife first, right? That was his goal. His goal was not, his goal shifted halfway through the movie from originally it was like, I got to get my wife to.
There's a point in the movie where he has to go back in time after like Zoe Saldana gives him the time to like get to his ship. But at that point they're like, okay, like let's go to, 2 years ago and stop, the time travel accelerator type thing from ever happening. But at that point he could have been like, well, why 2 years? Why not just go back 10 years and warn his dad never to partner up with Catherine Keener? There's a lot of stuff where like, if you don't lay out limitations for your time travel rules, you open up so many possibilities where like logically you could just be like, there's better ways to go about doing this.
You could say if he did that, it wouldn't have worked out the same because of 10 years had passed and something could have changed. Whereas if he went at the exact moment where this whole thing was kind of like the epicenter of the creation of time travel, stop it there would have been better off than going too far in the past.
Well, at any point, the genesis of time travel could have been stopped just by like warning his dad never to complete the equation, because Catherine Keener's research would have amounted to nothing if it wasn't for the dad, right? And there's also a part in this movie where, and this is something that I always wonder about when future persons meet like their past selves, and the kid asks Ryan Reynolds, do you remember us having this conversation? Do you remember meeting me at my age? And Ryan Reynolds, he kind of exasperatedly explains this away by saying like, okay, right now I don't, but once I get back to my time and the timeline has a way of like realigning itself, then I'll remember this. And so like that was like a good explanation as to
That's all I needed.
to that question. I know that's all you needed, Matt, but there are a lot of people out there that don't watch movies like you do.
You fucking nerds need to relax and chill a little bit and enjoy the movie instead of trying to microanalyze.
This is stuff that prevents people from enjoying the movie.
Exist in a fucking movie.
It's not even a science though. It's a matter of
it's a science.
It's a matter of narrative logic, right? Because there are people out there who can break down these movies, and it detracts from the enjoyment of it if you're thinking about these questions that haven't been addressed. And I'm just saying that in a proper time travel movie, you need to at least lay the groundwork so that these questions don't pop up.
I guess I better go get my proper time travel manual out so I know how to fucking watch a time travel movie.
You know what really detracts from the enjoyment of watching the movie?
This?
When Kadish does this while we're watching a movie.
Oh God, that would drive me insane. It's like, chill, man.
Well, if people just wrote time travel movies correctly, I wouldn't have to do this.
Oh my God. All right. So we've done that. We're done with the time travel thing. When are we going to move on? Next chapter. So you're not satisfied. I kind of understood what they were doing. Played a little fast and loose.
Don't get me wrong. I like the movie. I just didn't like how they treated time travel.
All right. Well, time travel is very difficult to write
It's a trigger for him.
Yeah, it's always been though, because even with Endgame, we're like, Endgame was great. He's like,
they are not doing this theoretical science correctly.
Oh, well, I'll tell you what, dude. In a minute, I'm going to drop some salt on the freaking magnetism, because I guess Ryan Reynolds.
I got things to say.
Ryan Reynolds.
Oh my God. Jesus Christ.
Ryan Reynolds and
Jude and I are
magnets.
going to go get drunk while you fools sit here and talk about make-believe
We're
science.
starting our own spin-off podcast where we just enjoy shit.
This movie is about relationships.
It is about a relationship. So tell me, what is it about that almost made you cry? What'd you like about it?
It's a relationship. It's a relationship movie about loss and parents and children, and I don't know how to even explain it.
Amen, brother.
It's just there's a lot going on in this movie. There's a lot going on in this movie, and I think that's what I appreciated about it is it did have the nerdy time travel, space action, fighting, laser beam, lightsaber shit, but it also was a very touching and just get under your skin story about love of
your family,
parents and family and kids, and it's just it was. If person who lost a parent early or something like that watched this movie, they wouldn't be able to make it through this.
Yeah.
This is an extremely emotional movie.
You know what I think was really well done with this was that, so we have 12-year-old Adam, and then we have like 40-something Adam. And each of them had a different perspective about their parents. Like the older Adam has now like realized like that, when he was young, he treated his mom like shit because she was trying to be both, father and mother to him. And he was dealing with something too. And she was just trying to hold her shit together to raise him. And he treated her like shit. And he didn't realize it until later on in his life. By that time, he's become very cynical about the relationship that he had with his father, because at 12-year-old's age, he's idolized. Yeah. And so by the time he's in his 40s, he has this very cynical view of the relationship that they had. And 12-year-old Adam is the one who's like, no, dude, you've just like, you don't remember this and you don't remember this. And the only memories that you have are the cynical ones. And that's completely clouded like your relationship that you remember with him. And it's not like that for me. Yeah. And I think that was really well done. They each had such different perspectives.
There's a scene in this movie where old Adam goes to the bar and meets his mom.
Yeah.
Oh, that was my favorite scene in the movie.
Yeah, and that was just an incredible scene because what would you do if you could go back to talk to your mom now and what would you say?
I can't go down this road right now.
It's just a really deep, thought-provoking thing. It's like, what would I go back and talk to my parents about? I have a lot of stuff I'd want to say.
Especially now that I've got kids of my own.
Yeah.
I mean, my parents are still alive, so I can still
and
do that. But
that was just a really well-written and thought-provoking special moment in this movie. And it was really
well, and just on an acting level, like Ryan Reynolds and Jennifer Garner both like holding back tears the entire time. I'm just watching them going, are they going to break?
This is the first time in this movie I'm like going, Oh fuck! it was awful.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, don't make me cry, Jonathan Tropper.
Everyone that we've talked to that's worked with Jonathan Tropper always says that he always kind of focuses in on the family unit in his storytelling, and we saw that with C, where he basically like in between seasons 1 and 2, he kind of shifted focus to like the family unit in that show. And in this, in Warrior, it's about like the brother and sister and stuff like that. And so in this movie, like, you can tell that his focus was on like, this broken family. But that actually brings me to one of my other criticisms about this.
Hold on. Let's.
We're not ready.
We're not ready yet.
Well, I mean, it has to do with the dad. And basically like, when we get to the end of the movie and the dad's like, I know something terrible happens to me, but I don't want to know what it is. I don't want to change the future. I'm sitting there like, isn't that kind of selfish? Because I would think that like he would want to be there for his son and his wife. So like, why not make this change for the better?
Oh, he had a Doc moment.
Yeah, Doc Brown.
He had a Doc Brown moment. He should have read the letter. That's what my wife and I said at the end of the movie. We were like, did you like it? She's like, yeah, I love that movie. It was a great movie. I was like, yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. She's like, I will only change one thing. And I'm like, what? He's like, he should have read the letter. She literally says that. She's referencing Back to the Future.
Yeah.
It's like, read the letter and show up at the end.
Quit Doc Browning.
Yeah. So yeah, I kind of get where you're coming from.
I mean, like it would have been one thing if like it's a disease that he can't cure and he's destined to die anyway, but it was a car accident, something that could have been avoided.
See, there was a big plot line in this to do with the big bad. I can't remember her freaking name. It starts with an S. Saurian. I had assumed throughout the entire movie I was watching it, I had assumed that she was the reason why the father died. I thought she set up.
Too.
I thought for sure she set up the car accident that caused his death so that she could kind of like take the technology that she stole from him and just do what she wants with it without having his ethical background and him in the way, basically. And I thought for sure like, oh, she had him offed. And that's why that happened. And when they fix her and they get her out of the equation, he'll live because she won't be the one who. And then it turned out that it wasn't the case. And I was like, oh, it was a weird shift for me. I was like, oh, okay. I totally assumed she was the reason why he died.
I'm of the mind that there's really nothing that he could have done to prevent it anyway. Because I feel like there's certain things in time that are going to happen. Like with you're going to meet who you're supposed to meet.
Exactly.
You're going to meet your wife. It's going to happen.
The whole movie proves that you can change the future, right? And so like why not make this choice for your family? Because objectively, the kid and the wife would have been better off if he had continued to live,
Well, I don't know, but he said, he's like, if Ryan, the older Adam, says to the younger one, like, if you didn't live the life that I lived, you wouldn't have become me. So I think there's another lesson in this movie where like, there are certain things you can change, but there's bullet points that are always going to be hit no matter what you do. And I think the father's death, Adam growing up without a father, becoming the older Adam, meeting his wife, those are bullet points in his life that never change.
Again, it comes down to their comparison to Terminator 2, where basically the theme of that movie is like time is not like locked in. There is no fate but what you make. That was the big theme for Terminator 2. And that's kind of the theme for this movie, where like basically the entire movie is about Adam trying to change the fate of the world. And part of that just boils down to like the fate of his own family. And so the idea that like the father's like, okay, well, I'm just going to die no matter what, as opposed to like, you know what, I'm going to try to, live so that I can be there for my son, be there for my wife, be there for my family. Like that to me is kind of like a very cynical take on like what the theme of the movie is, where, because like the family unit's such an important part of the film, I'd be like, hey, let's exalt the survival of the family unit instead of the breaking up.
It's a fair point. I want to talk about the thing.
You should write that movie someday.
Me and Lynn Kabazinski are going to do
it. That's going to be great.
Here's $12 for your budget.
Here's one thing
that's all Lynn needs. By the way.
A nickel. I make my own movie.
We're going to go shoot it in Bratislava.
Shout out to Eurotrip. There's one thing that I really want to praise about this movie that I absolutely love is the use of the kid, right? So you guys know me.
You hate kids.
Super cynical about kids in movies. They almost always ruin the movie.
I got 100 kids. I hate them all.
Yeah. Like you put kids in a movie and they do like these extraordinary things where they're freaking beating up adults and whatnot. It takes me out. My suspension of disbelief is gone at that point. I just can't do it. This movie rides that line perfectly, where you got this 12-year-old kid, and when shit hits the fan and Ryan Reynolds has to come in and fight some freaking super soldiers from the future. What does the kid do? He stands in the background and goes, oh, this is really freaking cool. That's exactly what a 12-year-old would do.
He also gets his ass kicked by other 12-year-olds.
Yes, he gets his ass kicked.
I love the moment where he, like, the lightsaber like rolls up to his foot and he goes,
yes, this is my moment.
And he immediately fucks up.
Yes, thank you. The whole use of the kid. And also, this is something that kind of clicked in my brain because this is, I don't know if I must not be unique in thinking this way, but like, I look back at my younger self and I go, God, I watch episodes of this podcast and I go,
God, we were dumbasses.
God, I was a freaking idiot back then. Like, I look at myself very critically, especially when I was younger, like in like 12, 13. I look back at some of the things that I did and said to people, and I'm like, man, I was a freaking moron. I must have been annoying to hang out with. That's literally the dynamic that Ryan Reynolds has with his younger self for like a majority of the movie. He's just super annoyed. He's like, God damn it, I was annoying when I was your age.
Yeah.
Shit.
I'm pretty convinced that the casting director got in a time machine and went back and got young Ryan Reynolds and brought him back.
This kid did so damn good.
Walter Scobell, who plays young Adam, he nailed Ryan Reynolds. All of his mannerisms, the way he delivers his dialogue. Mm-hmm. I was genuinely impressed. I was like, this kid is doing
really good.
Amazing
his name
impression.
Is Walter?
Walker.
Oh,
Walker.
Walker. Okay.
Yeah, Walker Scobell.
I was like, what a little gentleman name.
He's a damn good child actor. Freaking awesome. Nailed it in this role.
It's true, guys. We found it. We found a child actor that Alex likes.
It's got to be 2022, man.
Hell is frozen over. The sky is falling.
Because I'll tell you what,
Dogs
dude.
and cats living in sin.
but you know what? Like Alex is right. They treated the young version of Ryan Reynolds properly in this movie. And I think a lot of that goes to Jonathan Tropper and how he visualized this stuff. Like when I was writing my Earthman Jack novel, like that was the same thing too, where there's a moment where Jack gets like a ray gun and he's like 15 years old and he's like, played video games all of his life. And he's like, I'm going to smoke these mothers. And he starts shooting at them. And he just completely misses because he's a terrible marksman. And so like the idea that like a 12-year-old, like, has his hero moment, he just like fails because he's 12 is very relatable to like a lot of people. And I think some of my favorite scenes in this is when he's fighting with the bully Ray and the guy's buddy Chuck. And he's always just like, shut the fuck up, Chuck.
Shut the fuck up, Chuck. Chuck just pops out of frame like, what'd I do?
But there's this great scene where like the older Ryan Reynolds tries to make him fight Ray, and he's like, like this is a defining moment of your life.
Yeah, he's like, this fight had to happen.
Yeah.
And you had to lose it.
And dude, this was such a great setup and payoff moment too, because I did not expect this to be like a setup and payoff moment. I thought it was like a one-off thing. You got to smile, look at him dead in the eye, and just smirk and be ready for it, and then kick him in the balls or whatever he says.
Kick him right into the
And I'm like, oh, that's a really funny moment, haha. And then like an hour later, by the way, this movie is the perfect length. It's an hour and a half, freaking 90
hour
minutes.
And 46 minutes.
Perfect.
Including credits.
Well done. But yeah, later on in the movie, the younger Adam gets to flip that back on to Ryan Reynolds, and he's getting surrounded by all these super soldiers, and he's like, you just got to look at him dead in the eye and smile, man, and then just kick him in the balls. He's like, no, right now, damn it.
Like you've been waiting your whole life for this fight.
Yeah, and in that scene, the kid is basically operating the drone, which is like they set up early on that he's a video game player, and his dad, made this video game that mimics the drone controls in the future. And so like, it makes perfect sense that he's really good at using this drone to help, his older self.
Yeah. Perfect setup and payoff. I loved it. Go ahead.
The one scene with the bully scene where he's going to make him fight the bully after he gets his ass kicked and he just gets fed up and he grabs the kid and puts him up against the wall. It's like, listen, you little bastard. Yeah. It's like, who wouldn't want to go back in time?
Right? He intimidates he literally intimidates the piss out of this kid.
He's like, did you just pee yourself?
Yeah. Who would not love to go back in time? Just to fuck with that one kid who was a total dick to you when you were a kid.
And tell his buddy Chuck to shut the fuck up.
That was a good moment of this movie.
Yeah, it was a great moment.
I'm like, oh man, they're getting a little weird there because the adult's beating up the little kid. But
well, he didn't actually beat him up.
Just scared him.
Which I'm totally fine with.
He had it coming.
Yeah, absolutely. They set that up well. The next thing I want to talk about is Zoe Saldana.
Oh God, she's so pure. She's so pretty.
She's awesome.
She's really good.
She's good in everything she's in.
Good.
I just watched a movie with her. The movie itself isn't great, but Colombiana, I think is the name of it. Yeah. She's like an assassin or whatever. Freaking, she's dope in that movie.
To go watch that.
In addition to her, like the soundtrack to this movie gave me real Guardians of the Galaxy vibes.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you could tell they were going for that.
I did pick up on that. I thought that's like my one maybe big criticism of this movie is I like the music, but I felt like they were trying to go a little bit too James Gunn. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what James Gunn does. He finds this music that perfectly fits these scenes and these movies that he makes. And I felt like for some reason it felt a little forced.
A little trendy?
A little trendy. That's probably a good word for it. And but it worked. Don't get me wrong, it worked, but it did feel a little James Gunn to me.
I'll tell you, one of my favorite scenes in this entire movie is when, so like Ryan Reynolds like has his shirt off and his younger self is like looking at how buff he is, and he's just like, man, do we work out a lot like when we grow up? And then he starts asking us like, do we get laid? Like, how many girls have we had sex with?
And he's like, did I trade all of my brains for those muscles?
Oh, yeah, that was a great moment too. The constant back and forth between Ryan Reynolds and what was it, Walker?
Yeah,
Walker, freaking on point. It's Chef Kish.
Chef's kiss.
Chef's Kish.
I hate that term.
Wow.
Sean Connery.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it was a really cool dynamic. The dialogue was on point. Everything with Ryan Reynolds and Walker was freaking awesome.
Yeah, their banter with each other was really what carried the movie, I think.
The next elephant in the room I want to talk about is the deepfake Valley of Death or whatever they call it, with the villain who comes back and talks to her younger self. How did you guys?
It's Uncanny Valley.
Valley of Death, right?
You're talking about the Big Bad's younger version?
Yes. How'd you guys feel about
That
that?
was terrible.
Whenever I see Catherine Keener on screen, I'm just like, I'm so hungry from Living in Oblivion.
The deep fake wasn't good.
No, it was not.
It was not good. It looked bad. It looked like somebody with
You're talking about the de-aging stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it was a different actress, I believe, with just the CGI makeup.
They had the body double.
Yeah. They do the same thing that they're doing with Luke Skywalker in the new.
It was
new
like
thing.
except that looked better. This is
the newest one.
This
better.
looks like the deep fake tech that they had from 5 years ago. You know what I'm saying? 5-6 years, like Tarkin level type of stuff, which was good.
Tarkin was good.
Which was good for 5 years ago.
Right.
But now it should be way better. You know what I'm saying?
I think it was on par with The Irishman.
I've seen.
Oh, don't say that.
We've seen DH versions of people like.
This is
like
Nick Fury.
Nick Fury. That's a million times.
Yeah,
better
but
than this. And
fucking Samuel L. Jackson doesn't age.
This is a $190 million budget movie. They should have had better 175. They should have had better de-aging effects on her.
So you weren't happy with it?
I was not happy with the deep fake.
Jude, how'd you feel about it? Did it take you out of it?
It didn't take me out of it, but at the same, I guess maybe it did because I was like, oh, that's not great. But I mean, it didn't make me hate the movie. It didn't make me have I didn't have an actual problem with it, but I did say to myself like, oh, that's obviously not.
Yeah. I think it's going to
everything else in this movie was top tier.
Yeah.
Every effect, the explosions, the practical effects, the
ships,
chases,
the
ships,
cloaking
everything,
thing. Yeah.
Everything was awesome, except for the deep fake part of the one person that for 30 seconds she was in the movie.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
so this is
why did they run out of money? I don't get it.
I think this is the thing. Hollywood is so desperate to be able to do this. They keep trying to do it over and over again. They're getting there. They're like slowly working it. It's like CGI from 2009 doesn't look like it does now.
Crawl before you run.
Right. Yeah.
We all know that there's a guy on YouTube that could have fixed that in about 3
Well, he
days.
got hired by Lucasfilm. They couldn't get him.
But there's more. It's a strange thing to me.
Yeah, it's a very strange thing that they keep doing. And I always have to ask the question. I'm like, I understand that it's supposed to be the younger self, whatever, but like at what point do you just recast with another actor who kind of looks similar to the one that you're trying to do? I mean, that's what they used to do and it worked for decades. Like, why not continue doing that? Everybody's so like freaking mind blown by this deepfake technology that they just want to keep trying to do it. And I'm like, sometimes yes, sometimes no. Like Lucasfilm has been doing it and I don't think it hasn't worked. Like Tarkin was good. In that same movie though, Princess Leia, terrible.
Well, she had it looked like plastic.
It was weird. Yeah.
And that's what this looked like.
Yeah.
It looked plastic.
And they keep doing it with the TV shows that they're doing now, like Mandalorian and stuff, where they had Luke. The first time we see Luke, I mean, we're so freaking over the top that we see Luke Skywalker again, but his face was like real jacked up. Yeah. The second time they did it, it got better because they hired that YouTuber kid. But it's just a weird thing that Hollywood keeps trying to do.
YouTuber kid, you know, because he's way better than everybody ILM. It's ridiculous.
It's so weird. Katie, so how'd you feel about the CGI deepfake stuff?
I mean, I was fine with it. It didn't take me out of the movie. Like, I honestly didn't care about. I was still thinking about the time travel problems.
Oh my god!
So
It's okay. Jonathan Tropper knows who he is.
We never give him a whiteboard. Never give him a whiteboard.
He's gonna pull his funding.
He's over here going, Vader, you're not thinking fourth dimensionally.
he really isn't. You're not Vader. You're not thinking.
I don't care.
Put a clip of that in this episode.
That did not take me out of this movie at all.
Tropper's gonna call him up and go,
What the fuck, man? No.
okay, I did have one problem with the movie. It's all the way at the end.
Okay.
Want to talk about it now or later?
Go for it. Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
Did anybody else have a problem with the fact that, so we established like Ryan Reynolds doesn't remember it now. He will once he gets back to his timeline, and then the timeline balances out. But then we go to the end of the movie and young Catherine Keener gets shot and the other Catherine Keener just evaporates. I was like,
So younger
why?
version dies, older version then therefore no longer exists.
Because that timeline didn't happen.
Because that whole timeline that she created is gone now. So she disappears. Technically, you're right. The same thing should have happened to Ryan Reynolds and young Adam Walker, because when they destroy that machine, their timelines.
But they had to have time for the timeline.
But they had to have time for
and you know, it was unexplained.
But if that rule exists,
and then they wouldn't have had that emotional moment. At
I
the end
agree with you.
With his dad playing catch, and then you were just waiting for him to throw the ball and the ball to land.
yes.
But I thought we established that this timeline doesn't change until the timeline has time to catch up.
Right.
And it was immediate.
Yeah.
Catherine Keener just disintegrates.
Right.
And I was like, I call bullshit on that.
It didn't take me.
There was a moment. So like there's a scene in the middle of the movie when the time cops basically show up, and Ryan Reynolds is fighting all of them, and the minute that he kills the first one where he disappears in this like rainbow dust, the kid's like, you know, young Adam's like, what the fuck? And Ryan Reynolds says like, well, when you die outside of your normal timeline, you disintegrate. And so because Catherine Keener, quote unquote, died, like that was like her death, but young Adam and older Adam didn't die. And so like they basically just ceased to exist once the timelines realigned. They did kind of explain it. But again, my biggest problem with this movie is like early on, they needed to really establish like what the rules are for time travel. And that way we wouldn't be sitting here arguing about these things.
The only one arguing about it is you.
Sorry, I brought it up.
No, you're perfectly legit to bring it up. I'm just saying that like if the movie had told its story correctly.
Okay, so listen. Okay, here it is. Going forward, Hollywood, listen to me right now. Right. All producers, directors,
Please
Hollywood
have
movies.
Kadish take a pass at your
No.
script before you start
No.
filming.
I only charge $10 million a script.
No. So we have to have, you know how it has the little check boxes before a movie starts.
Right.
It's like adult language, sex language, smoking, suicide, whatever. We need to have another one that says what version of time travel methodology
T2
this movie is going to use.
Back to the Future.
All right. So
Star Trek.
Star Trek. Oh, don't even get me started on Star Trek time travel, dude. That's fucked up.
fly around the sun. You guys should be watching Picard about this stupid time travel shit. But yeah, so anyway.
So I want to talk, you know, we talked about the end of the movie. I had an issue with like the climax of the movie that had to do with Catherine Keener's character. You were going to talk about the magnetism. It kind of had to do with that.
Well, yeah, it just, magnets in movies don't make any sense. I mean, you guys remember 6 Underground with Ryan Reynolds?
Yeah.
No.
And they had
We want to block that one out. That's another Netflix original.
Do you remember that?
No,
Do you remember
what one was that?
This one where he's like an assassin. There's like 6 of them and they're all dead.
You only get a number.
Yeah. Remember that one?
Have I blocked this movie?
Yeah, you have.
You have, because we actually reviewed it. We actually reviewed it.
I don't remember this
It was a
movie.
Michael Bay movie that was just atrocious.
You remember it.
Where they're in the plane
boat.
playground.
Yeah, the
plane
boat.
Dead. Oh, yeah.
So they have like some magnetism freaking bullshit device that like only sucks certain types of metals apparently because it was just goofy. And it reminded me of this movie. I got Ryan Reynolds and magnets just don't mix apparently because I'm watching this movie and like
There's Ryan Reynolds never write magnets into your movies.
just stop using magnets.
It's his kryptonite.
So like it was just weird because I'm watching it and I'm like, oh, this is a fun sequence. You know, you get young Adam doing his thing and you get older Adam doing his badassery, and then, you know, the father, you know, Mark Ruffalo's doing his computer hacking thing. Like it was all good. It was all fun. I'm having fun watching it. And like human-sized suits of armor people were being sucked in by this magnet, but like the bullets and the handguns that people were using weren't.
Yeah.
It was
I immediately said, why didn't the bullets just go into the magnet to begin with?
Right? She's holding a gun, and I'm like, okay, so is the gun not made of metal? Because if it's not, then are the bullets inside the gun,
which they established
are magnetized? Wouldn't they be going towards it? Like,
well, in 6 Underground, they had special plastic guns.
That's right.
It's really kind of funny because all the timey-wimey bullshit didn't bother me at all.
But the magnet did?
I immediately thought that. I was like, no, wait a second. The bullet went weird. Why didn't it just...
Hold on. We got to set the stage here. So in the climax of the movie, old future Catherine Keener has this rifle that has armor-piercing bullets in it, and she's threatening to kill Ryan Reynolds and Mark Ruffalo and stuff like that. And so like she shoots the gun, the bullet, the armor-piercing bullet that has like a magnetic core to it, gets sucked into the super collider magnet that is powering time travel and goes through younger Catherine Keener, killing her, and therefore the older Catherine Keener ceases to exist.
Right.
Now, it was established at the start of this scene that the superconducting magnet is so powerful that it's sucking in anything that has even a remote resemblance to metal. So, so these future time cops and their super suits get, like full-grown men get sucked and stuck up against this thing. Buttons, loose change, like pretty much anything metal. Yeah. And so like when I'm watching this scene, I'm like, how is Catherine Keener able to get a weapon? Because like that thing should have been stuck up against the magnet.
Exactly. Yeah.
But most importantly, she should know, because like the big reveal is like she never paid attention to the science, and so like she thought like I'm going to shoot you, but then it like backfires on her. But the thing is like even if the gun were completely plastic, the bullets in the gun have like the magnetic cores because they're the armor piercing variety. She'd have felt the tug. But most importantly, that gun wouldn't have been available to her. So.
And just like there's a scene where a part of the door breaks off and goes towards the bad guy and hits him and pushes him into the giant magnet of death. And like I'm sitting there going, okay, so it's powerful enough to suck the door off the wall, but like, what are the handrails made out of? Are they metal too? Like, what's going on? It was just goofy. It was very convenient. It was very comic booky, kind of like, oh, let's just play fast.
There's a lot of plot convenience going on.
Yeah, a lot
in the finale of this movie.
I find it funny how my brain doesn't give a shit about the time travel discrepancies,
right?
But the magnet, like that's weird.
Magnets of death.
I hate being a nerd sometimes, man.
I know.
It drives me crazy.
And then the end of the movie, Mark Ruffalo's big line is like, sometimes it pays to be a nerd. I'm like, you're not a nerd.
Because if my wife had went and watched that movie, she wouldn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
She wouldn't have thought about it ever.
How does Adam's father's watch survive that thing? Like, shouldn't it have been like ripped off his wrist? Or
possibly. Yeah. It brings up a lot of questions. I mean, that's why we are who we are.
I will say, like, my favorite part of that climax is when young Adam gets like the lightsaber thing and he's like, jumping up and he does like the hero landing.
Oh, what is he called? Dinner time spanky or something like that.
I want to talk about the lightsabers.
Yes.
And the nunchuck lightsabers. The weapons were cool.
Awesome. I love that earlier on in the movie, he's like, is that a lightsaber? And Ryan Reynolds like, no, it's not a freaking lightsaber, dude. Relax. And then like he turns it on, the kid's back in and goes, that's totally a lightsaber. Because that's exactly what I said. I'm like, oh, bro, that's a lightsaber. It was perfect. Pitch perfect moment.
You know, one of the things I did like about this movie is, so Ryan Reynolds, all right? I like Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds gets a lot of crap because in every one of his movies, he's Ryan Reynolds.
He's branded himself.
Except R.I.P.D. He plays a completely different character.
Right. So sometimes Ryan Reynolds being Ryan Reynolds, I'm kind of over it, right? It's like, he's Ryan Reynolds. But for some reason in this movie,
it worked.
So I
don't watch a movie like Red Notice and Ryan Reynolds is obnoxious in that movie.
But I don't understand why my brain likes Ryan Reynolds being Ryan Reynolds in one movie and not in another.
That's the one with The Rock.
The Rock and Gal Gadot?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I didn't really like that movie. I thought they really were pushing it.
It was all right.
It's like, this worked.
This was better for sure. Yeah. Ryan Reynolds has to be in the right mix. And I think the kid is the key in this movie particularly.
It's like his social media stuff, his Mint Mobile stuff, his tequila stuff, his stuff with Wolverine that he does. I love that stuff.
Well,
and that's the same dude that's in this movie.
You know, the thing that makes a movie like this work and movies like Deadpool work, as opposed to movies like Red Notice and stuff like that, is the fact that like Ryan Reynolds just isn't playing it for a joke. Like there are actual like scenes where it's like, okay, now it's time to be funny, but now it's time to be serious. And when he oscillates between the two, when he takes the movie seriously, like it works. But when you have a situation like Red Notice where he's basically just ad-libbing the entire time and just like being like jokey Ryan Reynolds the entire movie, you're like, he's not taking the movie seriously. And so I can't take the movie seriously.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to say, I'm watching Free Guy right now. I started watching it while I was going to bed last night. Same kind of vibe. I'm enjoying Ryan Reynolds and Free Guy. But it's,
I think it depends a lot on the chemistry surrounding him too, depending on what movie he's in. Because like Red Notice, The Rock was just being The Rock, Gal Gadot was just being Gal Gadot, and Ryan Reynolds was just being Ryan Reynolds, and it was just kind of boring and flat.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say like going back to that scene with his mom at the bar, like
touching.
That was
hard.
Dead serious. Ryan Reynolds was acting in that movie, in that part, like he was tearing up. There was some real emotion there, and then a few minutes later, he's being the Ryan Reynolds that we know and love and who's branded himself as that person. Yeah. It was great. It was a good acting. It was a good balance between the two.
And I like it when movies can be a little self-deprecating as well. It's like the whole Deadpool hero landing moment. That was a straight Deadpool homage, for sure. And I loved it. That was really cool.
And there's a scene at the end when they open up like this case to take out like the gloves to play catch. And there's a sticker of both Deadpool and the Hulk in there.
One, I almost lost.
When did you lose it?
I almost lost my lunch.
Okay.
One part. No, it's really funny. It's like good funny.
Okay.
It's like when he gets shot and he breathes and his bullet wound farts. It's like, oh, it farts. That's interesting. It's like, oh, it's got a queefy bullet hole. Nice.
I feel like that's totally Jonathan Tropper.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
Let's make the bullet wound fart, guys. It's good because they had a serious moment there too, where he's talking to his younger self, and then like there's like a moment of silence. He goes, and it just cuts to the next scene. So freaking goofy.
Yeah, that was a great way to go out on a scene.
All right, let's do final thoughts, Vader.
Well, before we get to final thoughts, I just wanted to cover the history of this movie real quick.
Because, okay. You know something?
Yeah, like it was kind of interesting. So unfortunately, Jonathan Tropper did not originate this story. Like he kind of came in. And you can tell in our interview with him when we asked him about like, writing the season finale of season 1, he's like, if you see like someone's name and the letter and the word A-N-D, and then someone else's name under a screenplay credit, that means that they work together. But if you see an ampersand, it means that like, someone came in and rewrote someone else.
Oh, okay.
And one of the interesting things about this movie is that it was originally set up at Paramount Pictures, and it was from a spec script written by a gentleman named T.S. Nolan. And it was originally called Our Name is Adam, and it had Tom Cruise attached to it. Originally, Tom Cruise was going to play the Ryan Reynolds role. And, Paramount Pictures kind of like put it into development hell. And eventually Netflix kind of stepped in and was like, hey, can we have the rights to this? And by the time the movie was set to go, it had gone through like a number of like rewrites. And Jonathan Tropper kind of stepped in as like the final guy to kind of come in and script doctor everything and like rewrite it and stuff like that. And so he basically kind of came in and fixed the movie from like all the previous development hell versions that were out there.
Which is such a Jonathan Tropper thing.
Right?
Yeah, he's so good at that.
Is he the wolf?
Yeah.
I think he's.
He might be.
He dropped the shit out of that movie.
Netflix got to the Tropper, basically. So like Jonathan Tropper came in and basically like fixed this movie up and worked with Shawn Levy to.
If we ever have him back on the show, we got to get to the Tropper shirts.
Oh, for sure.
We can make that happen.
Yeah. So basically like this just had like a very interesting long development history to get to the point where it is now. And this is another one of those situations where you have like a traditional studio like Paramount or Universal, like whatever, that basically gave up a big budget property that could have been like a real hit to a streamer. Because if you remember, Red Notice was originally at Universal Studios, and basically like they had shot the movie, and because of the COVID restrictions, they sold it off to Netflix, and Netflix premiered it, and it was like one of their biggest hits ever. So like there's a lot of these weird things where like, we talked about how this movie would have been great in theaters, and it is kind of like a throwback to like 80s movies in the sense that like it's just entertainment. Like there's nothing preachy in this movie. There's no political messaging. It's just a straight up good old fashioned sci-fi movie. And this week we watched a bunch of 80s science fiction, and so like it was just kind of like one of those things where like this feels like it fits in with like a different era, and that's a good thing. Like that's something that like we've been missing, and you know, I really. You know, for all my criticisms of like the time travel and certain things, like I really enjoyed this movie.
All right, cool. Let's do final thoughts, Vader, on this movie. Give it a rating.
Final thoughts. I really enjoyed this movie. I absolutely think it's a travesty that we didn't get to go to a theater and watch this on the big screen, because this is a big screen movie, and it's easily worth the $12 ticket to go watch on the big screen. Easily. I totally would have been there. And that being said, fun movie. I had a great time. I don't have a lot of complaints about this. Like I think the biggest complaint I can have is the weird magnetism laws and maybe the deep fake part. Very emotional. This movie made me well up several times, and I appreciated the visual aspects of it as well. It's very well made, except for the one thing that we already talked about. And strong. Ryan Reynolds was good. The kid is good. Incredible Hulk is good in this movie. Jennifer Garner's beautiful and acts her butt off in this movie. It's really good. If I'm going to give it a score, it's going to be high. I'm going to go 4 out of 5.
Nice.
I could watch this movie again right now with no problem.
Cool.
I don't know if it'll get tired after a few watches, but right now I'm high on this, and I like it. It's good.
Excellent. Jude, before I get your final thoughts, I just wanted to mention my wife was watching this, and for the moments that Jennifer Garner was on scene and she was having that relationship with her 12-year-old son, like it hit my wife right in the feels. And I'm wondering if it did the same to you. So go ahead and do your final thoughts with that in mind, and if you can comment on that as well.
Okay. So I loved this movie. I knew nothing about it going in, which is how I prefer to go into movies. I hate it when trailers like spoil things
too
for
much,
me. Yeah. So I thought that this was great. If as just a movie, it's probably a 4-star movie, but it's a Netflix movie, so I have to put it in that realm. And as far as like things that Netflix has been turning out, we've seen a lot of crap come out over the last couple of years. So this for me is like 5 out of 5 mouth mullets for a Netflix movie.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the bad guys were bad. The love was there. It was heartwarming.
Mouth mullets
was a good callback.
Yeah, because Jennifer Garner dates this guy who's got a goatee, and Ryan Reynolds calls it the mouth mullet.
Yeah, and then the kid starts calling it that. Yeah, that's great. Good reference.
But like the relationship between Ryan Reynolds and his wife, who he hasn't seen in 4 years, and then when he finally gets reunited with her, they're in the middle of a battle, but they're still like, holy shit!
Yeah.
You know? And like the relationship between the kid and his parents, like you get to see it from the younger perspective and the older perspective, and like how infuriating the dad was when he just had to be right. Ryan Reynolds and him like come to blows because they're so frustrated with each other. All of the feels.
Nice. So 5 out of 5 for Netflix.
5 out of 5.
Nice. Wow. Okay, cool. Kadish, final thoughts. Give it a rating.
I think Jude's very spot on in the sense that like most Netflix originals, when you hear like Netflix original movie, you think crap.
You don't expect much.
Because like we've seen other Ryan Reynolds Netflix original movies like Six Underground, Red Notice, and those weren't good movies. No. And most Netflix originals aren't good movies. No. This was a good movie. So, you know, kudos to Netflix. And like, I'm wondering like how much influence they had, because usually Netflix has like a series of check boxes that they require like inclusionary stuff to be like shoehorned into movies. And this didn't have any of that. It was just a straightforward, you know, like here's the story and here's the movie and here's how good it is. And like, you know, even like the bad guy in this movie was like a woman, you know. It's like,
well,
wow.
no, they had their check marks.
Did they?
Yeah. They had the big bad was a female. Zoe Saldana checked that, and then the big bad's henchman was an Asian dude. You know, I mean,
well, but I mean, like they never made a big deal about like Zoe Saldana,
not at all,
or like, and the fact that like the villain of the movie was a woman. Like you just don't see that in most Netflix, you know, things. It's usually an old white guy. But like the whole point I'm trying to make is that I was very surprised at how good this movie was, considering it's a Netflix original. Now that being said, you know, my problems with the time travel, my problems with like the climax, with like the magnetism and the plot holes, logic holes that brings up. I can't give this anything above like a solid 3-star. Like it's a fun movie. It's a good movie. it's entertaining, it gets the job done, but there are just so many like plot logic problems with it that like I can't let go of it.
You're Bruce Bannering this movie.
I am really, but I will say that like I liked the callback nature of it. Like it felt like a movie from a different era. And the kind of nods to other time travel movies, like for instance, the dog is named Hawking, right? And that kind of carries on the tradition from Back to the Future, where Doc Brown would name his dogs after different scientists and stuff like that. So like little things like that were peppered in this movie was stuff I could really appreciate. But the biggest thing that I think worked and makes this movie work is the kind of buddy cop frenemy relationship between old Ryan Reynolds and young Walker. Because they play off of each other so well, and the heart of this movie is what really makes it stand out. Because like you have other movies, like for instance, Outside the Wire, you know, with Anthony Mackie, which is another like Netflix original.
God, that movie.
Yeah. But like you have stuff like that where it's like strictly action. You know, there's nothing more to it. And those movies get very boring very quickly. And I feel like if this movie didn't have the heart of like, you know, the family dynamic here, it wouldn't have resonated as much because, you know, like Vader said, like there are moments here where me as a full grown man, I get teary eyed.
Yeah.
And it's very emotional, and this movie has a lot of heart to it. And so like, I think that elevates it above the traditional fare. And I attribute that entirely to Jonathan Tropper's writing and Shawn Levy's directing, because it could have very easily gone bad or gone schmaltzy or like not resonated, you know, but for some reason it works in this movie. And so like, I think that is a good sign of a good movie. But yeah, I can't give it anything more than 3 stars.
You are infuriating.
You're really harsh.
Okay, so my final thoughts. I had a blast with this movie. I had a great time watching it with my wife. Hit all the feels. I had a great moment. One of the best movies that had a kid actor in it. I think they used him perfectly. He was smart when he needed to be smart. He was a kid when he needed to be a kid. He didn't have an overreaching suspension of disbelief breaking moment, which was awesome. So well done on that. The time travel thing, like with Endgame and T2 and Back to the Future, like there's always things you can say about time travel. It's going to break down because it's not real. It's fucking magic Hollywood bullshit. But Kadish is not wrong.
No.
You do have to set ground rules and then follow them for the entirety of the movie.
He's a mental deranged lunatic.
Let's give final thoughts on Kadish's problems
So,
with this movie.
curmudgeonly, I can't give anything higher than a 3-star. I'm going to give it a solid 3.5 flux capacitors for this movie. I had a great time. I really enjoyed the heck out of it. I don't have a lot of salt for it, except for the stupid nerdy brain part of my head going like, how do magnets work again? That's it. That's really my only criticism. Everything else worked. So I highly suggest checking it out. It's on Netflix. If you have that platform, go watch it. Support Jonathan Tropper. Hopefully we'll be able to get him back on and we can hash out the details behind the freaking
After
science.
that, I don't know.
He's gonna never.
Trop will be like, I didn't write any of that. That was written by other people.
He's gonna be like, "Shut up, Kadish."
Let me give you all the reasons why Kadish is wrong.
Yeah.
I give Kadish's review of this movie a 1-star cat fest.
He's gonna be like, "Where's your Netflix movie, Kadish?" Put a pin in your hat on that one. But that's it. That's it for our review of Adam Project. Go check it out. It's a lot of fun. And thank you guys all for being here and watching the video. And shout out to our people in Discord who are listening to us live right now. If you guys want to join them, go to saltynerddiscord.com and join the Discord community. It's a great place to be. That's where you can find me. I'm always there every week chatting it up, and we're doing live watch parties and all kinds of really cool stuff. Matt Vader, where can they find you on the socials?
You can find me on Discord too. I'm there all the time.
Excellent.
I think I'm actually there more than you are, but you know, it's okay.
I work longer hours.
Yeah, it's true. You work a lot of weird hours. You can find me at Matt Vader 74 on Twitter, Discord, YouTube, the things. Also, you can find me here at saltynerdvideo.com with Matthew and our Star Trek crew every Saturday morning right now. We're breaking down Star Trek Picard, and we're going to be going into what's the new show
Strange
called?
New
Strange New Worlds.
Oh,
We're
okay.
going to be the Star Trek show through the end of that run. So and then we'll figure something new out. But
That's a big bite.
yeah, me, Matt, Danny, Brian from the podcast guys, and maybe some other fun people.
Sweet.
So,
Right on. Jude, where can they find you at?
You can find me at I am Jude Juju on Instagram and TikTok. And we are doing trivia with our Patreon members. So come join us at saltynerdclub.com. Join the Patreon. And once a month, we're going to be doing trivia on Discord with our club members.
Excellent. Matthew Kadish.
You can find me at Matthew Kadish, Kadish on Twitter. Kadishbooks.com will take you to my Amazon page where you can check out my novels to see if I'm full of bunk or not. And if you wouldn't mind going to saltynerd.com/rate, RATE, and that'll take you to Apple Podcasts. We're trying to get 200 5-star ratings. So if you haven't rated us on Apple Podcasts, please do so. You don't need to write a review, just hit those 5 stars. And the minute we get those 200 5-star ratings, we can actually apply to Rotten Tomatoes to get accredited as actual movie reviewers, which will give us like press credentials, and we'll be able to get like early screeners of stuff and things like that. So it'd really help out the podcast. If you want to support us by doing that, we'd really appreciate it.
And lastly, don't forget, we have a special edition t-shirt available right now. If you go to saltynerdstore.com, you can get access to our Global Dynamics t-shirt and dedicated to the show Eureka that we're reviewing for the month of March for our club members. So head over there. It's a 1 or 2 month long run for this t-shirt, and then it's going to go away forever. So grab it before it gets disappeared.
And you'll need a time machine to go get it.
Don't ask Kadish to build it for you, though.
Yeah, and in the members area, we've actually been hitting a lot of like these like fantastic series. Like, you know, we did Foundation, we did Buffy the Vampire Slayer, we did Doctor Who. This month we're doing Eureka. Next month we're doing Stargate Atlantis. So if you like any of those shows, like you're gonna like our takedowns of them, because like basically we do like full retrospective recaps. So you don't need to have seen the show, or if you saw it a long time ago, you don't need to rewatch it.
And it's just kind of fun to revisit.
Yeah, it really is.
That's what we're learning by doing it ourselves. Is like, man, these shows are freaking really good. All right, everybody, thank you for joining us, and as always, stay salty, my friends.